Okay. So, I'm going to be reacting to top 10 things you never knew about Coraline. And that must mean that Coraline is bad. So, let's just get on with the video.
Big secrets wait behind that small door in the wall. Welcome to Ms. Mojo. And today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 things you never knew about Coraline. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're taking a look at interesting trivia regarding this 2009 stop-motion animated film. Number 10, there's a Chernobyl reference.
And I am the amazing Bobinsky.
Sergei Alexander Bobinsky is one of the strangest characters in the film, which is saying a lot.
Call me Mr. B.
Coraline's upstairs neighbor is something of a mystery, although you can piece his puzzling past together based on his appearance. Mr. B wears a medal that reads 483C, which indicates Chernobyl's nuclear power plant. The text additionally states participant in the cleanup campaign. This particular medal was awarded to individuals who helped deal with the fallout of the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The radiation from this disaster might explain why Mr. B has blue skin, not to mention why his personality is so eccentric.
The mice asked me to give you a message.
It goes to show how the littlest details can tell a character's whole backstory. Number 9. The movers are based on two real people. The two men that helped Coraline's family move into the Pink Palace had a much greater impact than you might have realized. Bill Van Reed's Rampt Brothers Moving Company, which is a reference to Jeremy Rampt and Joe Rampt. The movers are even modeled after these real-life brothers, who worked with director Henry Selick on The Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach. Joe's life was tragically cut short when he died in a car accident in 2000.
Just to say one thing before we continue, I loved the Giant Peach.
2005. Selick described Joe as the story giant of our generation, and Tim Burton's Corpse Bride was even dedicated to his memory. Jeremy, meanwhile, works as a character sculptor and voice actor at Pixar. Number 8. Leica auctioned off all their puppets in 2015. From Coraline to Paranorman and the Box Trolls, Leica has dished out one stop-motion success after another. In 2015, 1 year before the release of Kubo and the Two Strings, the production company auctioned off the puppets, sets, and props from the first 3 feature films. Coraline's evil other mother was a top seller, going for just above $50,000. Another other mother puppet sold for over $25,000, while a Blue Star sweater Coraline went for almost $24,000. Overall, the collection brought in over $1 million, a portion of which was donated to the Art Elysium, a charity that encourages artists and communities in need to join together and emotionally triumph over their circumstances through art. Number 7. Time and materials. Whether it's 2D or 3D, animation is always a lengthy, arduous process. You have to be especially patient when it comes to stop motion, though. Coraline took 18 months to shoot, and that's not even including the 2 years that went into pre-production. To create a single puppet, a team of 10 people worked for 3 to 4 months. It's not like there's just one puppet per character either. For the film's titular heroine, the filmmakers had to create 28 different puppets of various sizes, although the one that was primarily used stood at 9.5 inches. Plus, over 130 sets were constructed across 52 stages spanning 183,000 square feet, which broke a record for a stop-motion animated feature. Number 6. The shopping scene was almost cut. The scene where Coraline and her mother go uniform shopping stands out as one of the few moments that take place outside of the Pink Palace. Because of this, the producers originally wanted it scrapped from the final product, but Selick fought to keep the scene in. While it had already been established that Coraline and her mother have a somewhat strenuous dynamic, Selick felt the scene added something extra to their relationship. Put them back. It's also one of the final moments the two share together before Coraline's parents go missing. Furthermore, the scene has a nice payoff later on when Coraline's mom buys her daughter the glove she wanted, demonstrating the loving bond between them. Number 5. Where did that ketchup stain come from? While the shopping sequence ultimately made it in, another notable scene ended up on the cutting room floor. When Coraline is finally reunited with her real parents, The family spends some quality time together. As Coraline's father plays with his daughter's stuffed octopus, it's easy to overlook the ketchup stain on his shirt. The stain is given no explanation in the finished film, although a deleted moment offers us an idea. It's briefly mentioned that the family had pizza for dinner, which means Mr. Jones must have spilled a little tomato sauce. Either that, or he helped himself to a mustard ketchup salsa wrap. Number 4. Real-world sets were designed to be flat. You know how The Wizard of Oz starts off in a sepia tone, but transitions to Technicolor when Dorothy opens the door to Munchkin Land? Coraline did something similar. To create a contrast between the real world and the other world, the production team purposely made Coraline's round flat and depressing. When Coraline travels through the small door, however, we're thrust into a seemingly more inviting world full of color and wonder. This is especially apparent when you watch the film in 3D, putting an even greater emphasis on the other world's eye-popping visuals. The shift made it clear that Coraline wasn't in Kansas anymore, though she comes to learn that there's no place like home. Number 3. Why He Never Appeared in the Book. Coraline is based on a 2002 children's novella by Neil Gaiman. As with virtually any adaptation, the film made a few changes from its source material. In the book, the entrance to the other world is large and wooden. Here, it's shrunken down to the size of that door from Being John Malkovich. The filmmakers also added several elements, such as the ragdoll the other mother creates to spy on Coraline. Perhaps the most significant addition is Wyborn Rat, who didn't appear in the book, but who the filmmakers felt Coraline could play off of to avoid having her talk to herself for much of the movie.
How about Texas or Utah? Someplace dried out and bare, right?
Number 2. We Might Be Giants wrote an unused soundtrack. Bruno Coulet's musical score played a key role in setting the film's creepy yet whimsical tone. Initially, though, They Might Be Giants were enlisted to work on the soundtrack for Coraline. The alternative rock group wrote numerous songs, but Selleck felt their music didn't quite fit the tone he was going for. While most of their songs were cut, the other father's piano solo was used in the finished film. Band member John Linnell even provides the character's singing voice. They Might Be Giants have expressed interest in releasing all the unused songs from Coraline. As a matter of fact, the song Careful What You Pack actually came from their work on the film. Before we get to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1, it was originally going to be live action. While Dakota Fanning was attached to play Coraline pretty much from the beginning, the film was going to be done in live action before Laika entered the mix. Selleck felt the project would work better as an animated feature. Part of this had to do with the black cat, which Selleck thought might come off as too gimmicky and scary in live action. When it was decided that the film would take the animated route, Selleck had his heart set on utilizing stop motion. With CG animation dominating the market, stop motion would give Coraline a distinctive look. Fanning was excited by the idea of voicing an animated character, and watching the finished film proved very rewarding for her.
It's not just, certain things that, pop out at you. It's kind of the whole thing. You feel like you're kind of in it, and I really like that.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Ms. Mojo and subscribe for new videos.
I'm gonna be right back. I found another thing called The Dark Truth About Coraline. Let's watch it.
It's the perfect time of year to watch some creepy animated movies, and in terms of creepiness, Coraline is pretty high on the list. It managed to make Buttons creepy, which is pretty impressive. The attention to detail in this movie is really nuts, and the filmmakers managed to put some great hidden and, yes, creepy details right in plain sight. And that's what we're looking at today. Here are the dark secrets of Coraline. If this is your first time on Screen Rant, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified when we put out new videos. The other mother starts out the movie as a lovely and kind lady, but by the end, she's a literal monster. She's got needles for hands, which isn't what you want as hands. You want hands as hands. And there's actually a subtle hint that she was going to have crazy needle hands early in the film. The first time that Coraline meets her, she suggests to play hide and seek in the rain. And Coraline's like, what rain? That's when the rain starts and lightning strikes. And if you look closely, the bolt takes the shape of what her hands look like later in the film. Another creepy thing on the long list of creepy things about Other Mother, she never eats any of the food she makes for Coraline. When we first met her, you might have thought, oh, she's watching her figure. But later it's revealed that, oh yeah, no, she does eat, but what she eats is bugs, because she's a walking nightmare. And the world of bugs in the Other World was teased in the real Bland world. Probably the most subtle hint is the fact that their Bland wallpaper actually has a slight pattern of bugs on it. It's a little hard to spot, but definitely there. If there's one word we don't want to hear after the word ghost, it's children. Well, Coraline featured 3 ghost children who had their eyes removed and replaced with buttons, so that's nice. We only met the children later in the movie, but much like the other horrible stuff in the film, the filmmakers teased them visually. Like any good mother, the Other Mother keeps pictures of all her children on display, and you can see the framed silhouettes of the kids whose lives she ate hung up on the dining room wall. Coraline's other father seemed like a nice enough guy, but he was up to some evil stuff for Other Mother and knew exactly what her plan was. And it seemed like the first time he met Coraline, he might have tried to warn her. He sings her a happy little song on the piano. Even though it's got an upbeat tone, some of the lyrics foreshadow things to come. Lyrics like, she's a doll, button in the eyes, and our eyes will be on Coraline. It's a cute little song that's also horrifying. So 2 for 1, great value. Well, that's it for today's quick list. Let us know in the comment section what you thought of these dark secrets, and if there are any other secret details you remember. And if you're watching this on Facebook, hitting that link will let you jump over to YouTube and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Took pictures of buttons and put it near his eyes. And hold on, I'm gonna be right back in a little bit. There's another one.
Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and this is Coraline, one of my favorite films ever. My past attempts at cracking out the secrets of this movie have been good, but not great. I managed to dig out lots of excellent evidence to support 3 different theories, but came to a final conclusion that was half-baked. So, as promised, I'm returning today to give my new take on this after rewatching it multiple times in a row with an open mind. This was supposed to be my 150th theory uploaded on Halloween Day, but my eagerness got the better of me. It was going to be number 150 because the Pink Palace apartments are 150 years old. Anyways, here's a quick recap if you don't remember my last 3 theories. In part 1, I used what YB said about seeing a sky full of stars and looking at parallel images deduced that the other world had a major portal at the bottom of the well, and even that the other world itself may be somewhere far down there. In part 2, I noted a ton of cool Easter eggs and secrets about the film, and then used them as prime evidence to support my 3rd theory, where I created a legitimate timeline of events at the Pink Palace. I also made an attempt to work certain ideas into it, but those got a bit unbelievable, so that video is mainly good for its timeline. And today, I'm looking at several things. With the help of commenters, the Coraline Wiki, and the general internet, I'm looking at the Beldam's existence, the cat's existence, the town's existence, and why the Beldam does what she does. Let's get into this. People have always believed that the Beldam was a strange creature with an unknown background. She needed to eat kids' flesh for her nutrition or she'd die, but that simply isn't true. And no, I'm not claiming that my old theory is correct either. Of all the helpful comments I've received, one in particular stood out to me as a strikingly good idea, that the Beldam actually lived in the Pink Palace. But then something clicked, and as I did some research, sure enough, history itself supported my thoughts. Coraline has been confirmed to take place in Ashland, Oregon. Ashland was settled in 1852, roughly 150 years ago. This means that the Pink Palace was built as the town was being settled, and whoever lived there first was a very old-fashioned person, the Beldam. Now, that word means a lot of things, like beautiful lady and grand dame, but the thing is, it's a very old word, rarely ever used, and I'm suggesting that the Beldam is the original owner of the house. But her name isn't actually the Beldam. But she was a normal woman. She had the Pink Palace built for her, as she and several others settled Ashland. This explains why there's a garden in the backyard that resembles her face strikingly. She is the Grand Dame, or the leader of the settlers, and thus she gets the mansion of Ashland with a garden built in her honor. If you're still touchy about the topic of her being a human, the Coraline book literally confirms this when the beldam says she had a mother. She said she stuck her mother in a grave and pushed her back in whenever she tried climbing out. Weird. Okay, so far so good. A highly respected woman settled Ashland and moved into a large pink mansion. The book implies that the beldam discovered the otherworld and that she didn't actually invent the otherworld itself, just the stuff in it. So it's my believing that she perhaps fell down the well one day. At the bottom of this well, the otherworld. It's sort of a pocket universe without any laws of physics, as all of the laws are created by the inhabitants, the prime one being the beldam. So basically, her magic isn't natural, it's just a know-how of the otherworld's emptiness. Now here's where it gets interesting. I'm sure you've seen Tangled, right? It's like a Disney Rapunzel movie. In it, there is a woman named Mother Gothel. She's a very old woman who feeds off of a magical flower to stay young forever. This is exactly what the beldam is doing. Eyes are the window to the soul, and she lures lively children into her world and takes their eyes. And because of her void's rules, this takes their souls, therefore giving the otherworld the magic required for the beldam to survive for the 150 years that she has. Okay, I'm glad I kind of cleared that up. But if this is the case, where does the cat fit into all of this? The cat is a very important supporting character who has extensive knowledge about the other world. In my other theory, I just dismissed him as being curious and that he knows where the jumping mice portals are. But rewatching the film, I have another idea. The two crazy women downstairs give Coraline taffy. As Miss Forcible grabs a taffy dish, dates are shown beneath 3 different taffy bowls. I must remind you that these are the ladies who give Coraline psychic tea leaves and a savior triangle, so these dates must also be important. And after looking throughout the film a bit, I discovered that these dates match up with the years new people move into the Pink Palace. The grandmother's sister would have been taken in approximately 1960, the young boy in 1936, and the pioneer girl in 1921. And if the beldam has been out for her magical youth since 1852, one date in this pattern seems to be missing. The 1 year required for the beldam to live is somewhere around the year 1900, and this is where the cat ties in. My assumption is that the cat was that child, but the beldam did not succeed in taking his soul. She didn't have a way of trapping him, and it resulted in him escaping. Of course, he'd then grow old, eventually dying after 1960, and he'd be reincarnated around 30 years later to protect YB Lovat. This is why we see him so close to YB all the time. He's protecting him from the beldam. The beldam's skeleton-like state means that there was a period where she was desperate for magic. This caused her to have to replace various body parts that were decomposing. She gives herself multiple legs for optimum maneuverability. This would have been the period where the boy...
I just want to comment about that. Okay, time to
had
continue.
escaped and left her to possibly die. We know that in the book, the beldam is after magic, not food, as she even kidnapped a fairy. So my theory is still pretty fitting. The Grand Dame of Ashland settles into the largest mansion in town, even having a garden created in her honor. She gets trapped down a well, which happens to portal to the pocket universe where she can create her own laws. Her inability to escape gets dire, and she begins to lose life in her pocket universe. The house being abandoned, a 1900s family moves in, and their boy is taken advantage of by the beldam who needed magic to survive. So she opened a portal of easier accessibility right there in the house, the door. The beldam's mistake, however, was that she didn't create a doll, and her unprepared plan allowed the boy to escape. He grew up, died, and decades later was born to save Wybie. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and answer a bunch of common questions. Question 1 is about the room in the first scene of the film, the sewing room. If you're one of those people who doesn't know where it is, I believe it's just the study. The room's decagonal shape identically parallels that of the study. Its wallpaper is also similar to the study, proving that the sewing room is indeed, well, just the study. And that means that the window she throws the doll out of is the small door. I mean, it's the exact same size. Although, as a very clever commenter stated, the doll's floating nature could be it rising through the water in the well, as the well is likely a portal. Question 2 is, why does she use buttons as eyes? My theory on why she uses buttons is because they're easily sewable, and she can see through the button eyes of anything she sews them on. It's just little things that this film does to show this. Watch this transition on the first night.
See you soon.
See? The beldam faded into the doll, signifying that she sees through anything with button eyes. Question 3 is, why do the other world's inhabitants have free will? It's because she's using the soul sand of the kids to power their lives, and the souls know the truth. Question 4 is, how does that triangle thingy work? The triangle is a cool object given to Coraline by Miss Spink and Forcible, and it allows her to see the other world for what it actually is, a threaded creation by the beldam. This triangle isn't magic, it's just an object from the real world, and looking through it shows things in the real world, such as the souls. Question 5 is, how does the doll really work? Something small I noticed is that Coraline goes into town with her mother and doesn't have the doll with her. She asks for gloves, doesn't get them, and goes home. She starves for food at home. The doll is seen nowhere nearby. Coraline then goes to the other world, and the beldam has all the food Coraline wanted and a cool outfit, replacing the gloves she wanted. If the doll was nowhere to be seen with Coraline, how did the beldam know to make her these things? Speaking of the parents, have you ever stopped to consider how the real mom and dad actually got trapped in the other world? What? The beldam made a doll of them. Big deal. But then she took them? How on earth could that happen? And this prompts the question, were her parents really taken? We hear,
Coraline, we're home!
And they close the front door. So, is it just a trick by the beldam? I mean, do you honestly think the parents are gonna act like this? But the big thing here is the snow on their clothes, which instantaneously melts. It's a question I'd like you guys to ponder and comment what you think as for just exactly what the doll really does, and if the parents were really taken. I mean, this is the movie that goes so far as to get the area code of Portland, Oregon correct on the back of a moving truck. So all Easter eggs have full...
Oh,
Congratulations.
Hold on.
What is this?
Okay, I'm back.
Question 6 is, what are all those toys doing in the passage? They're all over it, and you can't just say it's from kids dropping their toys in there, as they're on the ceiling too. I believe it's the beldam's mice slaves bringing her objects to altar. The mice are another part of my theory I need to address. They know everything about the other world, and can speak to Bobinski somehow. The other mother uses mice as they can maneuver worlds easily and go through small portals like the ones the cat goes through. Also, they're good servants, as the littler amount of soul sand put in all
Just hold up.
worlds easily and go through small
I didn't even knew that was a cat sound. Okay, let's continue.
portals like the ones the cat goes through. Also, they're good servants, as the littler amount of soul sand put in an object, the littler they will obey the soul, and the more they will obey the beldam. And while on the topic of mice bringing objects for her to alter, why can't she create from scratch? This is a surprisingly common question, and the answer is It's a void. She can't create things in a void. She needs things to be brought into it, things she can apply the non-physical rules to. Question 7 isn't really a question so much as an Easter egg. Research nobody has ever done. The ghosts in Coraline's dream are in a place where the backdrop is Starry Night, a painting by Van Gogh. Starry Night is believed to
Oh wait, hold up.
the non-physical rules too. Question 7 isn't really a question so much as an Easter egg. Research nobody has ever done. The ghosts in Coraline's dream are in a place where the backdrop is Starry Night, a painting.
I actually seen a Starry Night Easter egg and a Easter egg and a dream, not dream, and a game called a Flip or Flop or something like that, where it's behind spoiler a secret wall, but I won't spoil where which house that secret wall is. Mostly because I forgot. And I also saw it on Minions, I think, and some other movies.
Painting by Van Gogh. Starry Night is believed to be a representation of isolation, and Van Gogh himself called it a starlit vault of heaven one can only call God. Now, I'm not too familiar with the Bible, but according to historical research people have done on this painting, the 11 stars represents Genesis 37:9, a verse that had to do with Joseph. And historians believe that Van Gogh identified Joseph with his art because, unlike Joseph, he was a dreamer and had just underwent years of imprisonment. Sound insanely familiar? Oh, the symbolism. Question 8 isn't a question, but a statement. I believe I might have already said this, but Coraline basically taking the souls demagifies the environment. Taking the power of the world destroys it, and everything, including the moon, is moving because of Coraline's meddling. Notice how the button on the moon stops for a split second when Coraline doesn't grab the last soul. There is still magic. It's not the beldam moving the button onto the moon, it's the magic just going away. Question 9 is...
Hold on. I just wanted to see.
It's the magic just going away. Question 9 is...
Ah!
Identified Joseph with his art because, unlike Joseph, he was a dreamer and had just underwent years of imprisonment. Sound insanely familiar? Oh, the symbolism. Question 8 isn't a question, but a statement. I believe I might have already said this, but Coraline basically taking the souls demagifies the environment. Taking the power of the world destroys it, and everything, including the moon, is moving.
Oh, I was too late.
The future. Why be said he predict the future? I really honestly don't know. What's your guys' take on the meddling? Notice how the button on the moon stops for a split second when Coraline doesn't grab the last soul. There is still magic. It's not the beldam.
Okay. Is that supposed to be a branch or is that actually a hand? I just want to know. It reminds me of a branch making that the what is it called? The needle hand, the needle fingers.
Moving the button onto the moon, it's the magic just going away. Question 9 is, can the beldam predict the future? Wybie said he found the doll in his grandma's trunk, meaning the intro scene takes place 50 years before the rest of the movie, when the beldam remade the doll. So if she made Coraline, can the beldam predict the future? I really honestly don't know. What's your guys' take on the beldam's future predictability? Question 10 is, if the other mother is so omnipotent, why doesn't she just kill all the kids? Because she needs their love, and because when they're loving, they have very potent souls for the utmost magic to save her world. And leaving the other world would kill her instantly. Her hand can go as it's bit like a robot. And question 11 is perhaps the biggest question of all. Why is there only one key? Why does the beldam fail to replicate it? And if it's been confirmed that this world was discovered, not created, then why does the key have a button on it? Take to the comments. I honestly can't answer that question. What do you think? Plot hole? The final Easter egg I discovered was that Coraline has a little dragonfly or butterfly hair clip thing in all the time. Spirit animals are animals that reflect the spirit of a person. Here it is, my final timeline.
Again, back.
The Grand Dame of Ashland, Oregon, settles into a mansion. One day she falls down a well, portaling her into an inescapable pocket universe that demands her creation. Years later, a family moves into the Dame's house, and desperate to stay alive, the Grand Dame creates magical laws in the non-physical world, stating that its magic can keep her living. Eager to stay alive, the Grand Dame uses magic to create more portals and lure this kid into her world to take his soul magic. He escapes, she fails, and slowly deteriorating, she replaces her body parts with metallic versions of what she had, giving herself some upgrades. Years later, what's left of her is consciousness and a skeletal metal bone structure. A new family moves in. The beldam this time is prepared and succeeds. She does it twice more, and then Coraline happens, and the beldam supposedly dies by her first and last victims, the first victim being the reincarnated spirit to protect children nearby. Alright, so this is by far my longest theory, and I need to wrap things up. Of course, I have more questions, like why was Coraline allowed to move into a house where the grandma says kids can't move into? But all of these things are either plot holes, or just things I can't